Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're going to review AEW All Out. 1 year in the making, 1 year since All In. What a strange and crazy year it's been. We've seen All Elite Wrestling become a thing, basically based off of last year's what was supposed to be a one-off show. So they finally came to being a show. They got a TV deal. They've amassed quite an impressive roster. They've run a couple shows. And now we're back to where it all started. Back to Chicago, back to All Out. Now, before I get into this, we rate everything here on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. Let's jump right into it. The first match of the evening. The first 2 matches are on the buy-in show, which is their pre-show. First match is the Women's Casino Battle Royal. I like that they're keeping with the gimmick for Double or Nothing, but calling it a Casino Battle Royal when you're not in a casino, kind of weird. But anyway, winner of this match will get a chance at the Women's Championship, the inaugural Women's Championship on the first TV taping on October 2nd. I like the concept of these. We've seen 2, a men's and a women. I think this was better than the men's one. I don't think they fully fleshed out how to make these really work how they should. I like the idea of kind of like a Royal Rumble where there's staggered entrance, but you get a group instead of one. It's kind of both of them have had their down moments and their up moments. I liked a lot of the surprise entrance in here. ODB was awesome, seeing her. Mercedes Martinez as the Joker, the 21st pick, was really cool. Just some really good wrestlers in there. Priscilla Kelly was a nice addition, a nice surprise. I would have liked to been surprised by the addition of Tenille Dashwood, but everybody reported that over the weekend. Some really, really solid quality wrestlers in this match, and it really made for a really interesting first match. I enjoyed it. Came down to the final 3 were Bea Priestley, Nyla Rose, and Britt Baker. Britt Baker eliminates Bea Priestley, who then distracts and helps Nyla Rose eliminate Britt Baker, thus making Nyla Rose the winner, and going on to the Women's Championship match. I'm going to give the match itself a 4. Like I said, I enjoyed it there. It's not perfect yet. I don't think they fully got where they can work this concept to its best ability, but I do like what they do. There's always the surprises, there's always intrigue. It's more than just starting off the match with 20 people in the ring, and it's kind of cool, kind of interesting. Now next up we see a tag team match in Helico and Jack Evans against Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. Private Party, the more I see them, the more they impress. Before Double or Nothing, I knew very little of them other than they wrestled for House of Glory, and I'd seen them in a few House of Glory matches. But other than that, really hadn't heard their name as someone out there, but they're obviously stealing all the shows on these. Every time they're getting put out there, they're blowing me away, and they're blowing the crowd away as well, and they're easily becoming one of the hottest acts in All Elite Wrestling, which is kind of awesome. I kind of want to see how they handle that, though, the whole company, where we've seen, like in WWE, someone getting over that wasn't planned to. They don't really adjust their plans to go with the momentum. I want to see if All Elite does it, if All Elite does a smart thing and capitalizes on somebody getting over that shouldn't have. So, with that being said, it was a really cool match, really good. Kind of sucks that a team like Helico and Evans, who are actually a really awesome team themselves as well, are kind of being used as a quasi-jobber team, and they're losing often here. I like them. I hope maybe once we get to TV, they get to pick up some actual wins. We did see a little bit of heel work after the match. One of the cool things I wanted to point out, Isaiah Cassidy was rocking some Outcast Stankonia socks, which was pretty cool. One of my favorite albums of all time. One of the best rap albums of all time. A lot of people will tell you that. Just a fantastic match all the way around. Private Party picks up the win. I'm going to give this match a 4. I'd like to see Helico and Evans treated more seriously going forward. I think Private Party is going to be one of your top teams. They already have cemented themselves as such, and they need to be treated as such. Now, before we went on to the main show, we got treated to a Wardlow vignette. And to be perfectly honest, I've never seen Wardlow wrestler. I've seen a couple pictures of him. I believe, I might be wrong on this, but I believe he mainly wrestles in ICW in England and the UK. But this vignette was pretty cool. At first I kind of thought for some weird reason it was Brian Cage, but obviously it wasn't. He doesn't look facially anything like Brian Cage, but the body is similar. Looked impressive. I liked the way the vignette itself. I thought it was well done. I think it's a good way to introduce a guy that maybe not everybody knows, like myself, obviously. So, great way to put this on this big event, on the pre-show, which I know there's some people that are watching the free show that aren't going to go on and watch the main event because either they can't afford it or they don't want to, or for whatever reason. So hype the guy while you got the biggest crowd you have, which was pretty cool. After that, we see an interview with MJF, who basically says he doesn't care about having a match tonight. He'd rather be picked to be in his best friend Cody Rhodes' corner later on. So cool little segment with MJF. Maybe some hints at a face turn. But I thought it was pretty cool here. A nice interview to round it off. Then we get them talking about the main show. JR gets introduced, and we go right into the main show. First up, we have the Lucha Express, which I have to believe is a shot at Jim Cornette. I gotta think that. Maybe it's not, maybe it's just a name they came up with, but with as much as Jim Cornette has criticized a lot of what happens in AEW, I can't imagine that wasn't a purposeful thing. We have the Lucha Express, Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, and Jungle Boy, or a small boy, a smaller boy, and his dinosaur, or whatever the heck they called them. I like these. I like all three of these guys. I think they're awesome. Against SCU, which I absolutely love. SCU, 3 fantastic wrestlers. Thought this was the right way to start off the pay-per-view. Much like I said with the pre-show, there's a lot of people that watched the pay-per-view that did not watch the pre-show. And I thought this was a really good match. I liked how it worked out. I kind of like that they're hinting at maybe a trios title or a 6-man title down the line. There's a little bit said about it here and there, rumbled through the show, so maybe we'll see that as another secondary title instead of maybe an Intercontinental or US or TV title. We'll get trios title and the tag titles, which we know we're getting a tag title, so maybe a trios title will be a thing as well. I digress. Really fantastic match in my opinion. I liked it. A great way to open the show. SCU picks up the win. I'm going to give the match a 3. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was quite as good as the match before or the match after it, so it kind of was hurt by its placing. SCU's kind of been put in that role of opening the main show, which is a good role to have. It's a good way to show that they're a team that can pull everyone in to watch the show. They're someone that you trust to get the show off the ground. So I liked the match. I thought it was really good. I thought it was good. Thought it was hurt a little bit by its placing. There was better matches around it. So, again, I give the match a 3. Now, next up we have Pac versus Kenny Omega. And it's kind of a little bit shocked that it was this early in the card that they put this on. I figured this would be one of the last 3 or 4 matches. But, again, I don't know why it was early. Maybe they wanted to get it out the way, or maybe, who knows? Maybe it gave Omega more time to be an agent when the other main guys, the other guys that are running the company, were out during their matches. I don't know. Either way, I thought this was a really good match. I think the psychology was just a bit off, and I think JR's commentary was kind of trying to tell a story of Kenny Omega not necessarily being into the match and not necessarily being prepared for a wrestler of the caliber of Pac. I thought this was a interesting match. It's kind of one of those kind of dream matches that everybody's talked about for a long time. I feel like the fact that Moxley pulled out of this match because of injury and Pac was thrown in as a replacement kind of hurt the specialness of what it really was, and it really is a special match. It just didn't get the chance to be hyped up for everything it could be. Pac picked up the win, surprisingly. I did not expect that. I thought it was a really good match. I'm going to give the match a 4. I'd like to see a rematch with more hype put into it, more build-up put into it, more of a reason behind the fight put into it, other than he's just a replacement for a guy that didn't show up because of injury. So, yeah, that's my opinion. I think it could have been better, but I do think it was really good as it was. Next up, we have a 3-way match between the guys, the hardcore division, I guess you would say, in AEW. Darby Allin versus Joey Janela versus Jimmy Havoc. Thought this was a good match. Really solid, really kind of showed off what these guys do best. I think there was a couple spots that were a little bit weird. The Cracker Barrel stuff was kind of cool. The trust fall with the Cracker Barrel that Darby Allin did was pretty awesome. I think Joey Janela kind of got lost in the shuffle a few times. It kind of felt like the Darby Allin Jimmy Havoc show with Joey Janela just there. Again, another had to be obvious shot at Jim Cornette. This one's probably more obvious than the other one. This was 100% on purpose. At one point, Janela goes under the ring, pulls out a tennis racket, looks at it and kind of throws it away because it's not a quality weapon. I get it. There's been a lot said about Joey Janela from Jim Cornette, but there's a time to do this and a time to let your pettiness out. And yeah, in the overall scheme of things, it didn't hurt the match, but just kind of feels like, are you going to be this way with everybody that criticizes you? And I'm not just talking AEW, I'm talking about Joey Janela specifically. And he does have his detractors. I enjoy him. I think he's good. But there are people that aren't fans of his work and aren't fans of the style he employs. So, is every time someone that criticizes Joey Janela, he's going to go out of his way to make fun of them? I don't know. To me, it was a little bit petty, is basically what I'm getting at. I thought the match itself was rather good. I thought it really showcased what all 3 guys were about. Like I said, Allin and Havoc seemed to take more control of the match. I was a little bit surprised that Jimmy Havoc picked up the win on it. I kind of expected Darby Allin to get the win here, especially since they haven't really built off of the draw he had with Cody Rhodes back at Fyter Fest. So, kind of a little bit surprised with that. I give the match, so the match was, I give it a 4. I thought it was another solid outing on the show. I thought it was another match that I really enjoyed. Now, next up, we have the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta versus Dark Order, formerly Super Smash Brothers, Stu Bennett and Evil Uno. Or not Stu Bennett. Anyway, Stu and Uno, either way. Uno and Dos, whatever you want to call them. This match kind of fell a little bit flat. Again, it was a little bit weird placing on the card. I think this match should have been early in the night match. Maybe flip this with the Private Party and Helico Evans match. Obviously, these teams are penciled in to be two of the top teams. This was for a first round bye in the tag team tournament. The Dark Order pick up the win here. Afterwards, we see their minions or gimps or whatever the heck you want to call them trying to take away Chuck Taylor. The lights go out, and it's Orange Cassidy standing in the ring. Orange Cassidy basically helps the Best Friends. We see him stand there with his hands in his pockets, and the Best Friends give him a big hug. So again, it's teased another three-way team here. Even on commentary, they mention it as being a potential six-man tag team. I give the match a 3. Again, a little bit underwhelming to me. I've seen better from both teams, a lot better from both teams. I think both of them are capable of a 5-star match or a 5 rating match, whatever you want to call it. I thought it could have been better. I did enjoy it though. I thought it was good. It didn't detract overall from my enjoyment of the show, but it didn't necessarily add it to another level either. Now, next up, we have our Joshi match of the night, which seems to be a AEW standard. There's at least one Joshi match on every card, or Joshi wrestlers involved in a match on every card so far. We have Riho versus Hikaru Shida, and I just pronounced it wrong. Hikaru Shida, however you pronounce it. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, so you don't have to comment down here that I am. But anywho, I thought this was an interesting match. I don't think that Riho is quite getting the reaction that they are wanting her to get. I believe they're pushing her. The winner of this is going to face Nyla Rose for the inaugural Women's Championship. And I don't think that they're quite getting the response yet that they are. It would be best served that on an early episode of AEW on TNT, they did a little bit of history of the Joshi matches, maybe shown some of the Japanese matches, some of their upbringing and all that. Get everybody up to pace with them, or even on a road to All Out or a road to TNT or whatever the heck they're going to call their series, or being the Elite, they do a little bit about this to get the casual fans that aren't necessarily familiar with the Joshi wrestlers more involved. I thought it was a fantastic match. I like Shida as the bigger wrestler kind of dominating most of the match. I like the fact that when they got to the end, Riho picks up the win kind of how she always has, more of a surprise win, crafty win. They need to play this up, and they need to give us backstory on it. And I know as of right now they don't have TV to do that, but they have 2 different YouTube series that a lot of people that are watching the pay-per-views or the specials are also watching those YouTube shows, so they could have done it. And they could have explained why these women are so special. Heck, they could have even brought in Mike Tenay if they wanted to, who seems to know everything about everything wrestling. So, again, I thought it was a solid match. I don't think the crowd was as into it as they should have, or they want them to be. I'm going to give this match a 4. I rather enjoyed it. Like I said, I feel like the faults that they have isn't on the wrestlers or the match itself. I just feel that it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed, even with someone like a Kenny Omega, to put him blindly in front of people that have never seen him. If you took Kenny Omega and, let's say, I don't know, let's say for whatever reason Australia never seen Kenny Omega, and then you had a Kenny Omega match, they wouldn't quite know how to take him. In other words, you have to build these people, is what I'm basically saying. I'm getting the long way around is they need to explain to us why these Joshi wrestlers deserve to be in such high profile spots. Now next up, we have the grudge match of the evening. Shawn Spears with Tully Blanchard going up against Cody, who had an awesome Star Trek themed appearance. Brandy is 7'9", DDP and MJF wearing Star Trek shirts, Cody wearing one as well. Pharaoh coming out, Pharaoh looking like he legitimately got scared by the pyro. Felt a little bit bad there for a second for Pharaoh. I liked a little bit of the touch. I thought it was a really cool entrance. I'm a Star Trek Next Generation fan, so I liked that they did that there. I kind of don't think that you do that in a blood feud type match, but hey, it was still cool. It was cool. We get down to the ring. Earl Hebner, who's the referee, says to Cody, you have to decide who's your one person per the contract to stay ringside, and he picks his best friend, MJF. At that point, I kind of thought that MJF was going to turn on Cody and join Shawn Spears and whatever faction they want to call that. But surprisingly, that didn't happen. This match was pretty straightforward. It seemed that Tully had more of an influence on Shawn Spears than MJF and Cody working together, which makes a lot of sense. But the psychology of how the way they worked this match was really fantastic. I think Cody is at a level where he's kind of one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, and he's probably between the ropes one of the best storyteller in wrestling right now. He can evoke so many emotions. He's the guy that's going to be in these life or death situations, these feuds that are, I'm either going to kill you or you're going to kill me. A lot of interesting stuff here. At one point, there was a whole thing where it broke down and MJF and Tully Blanchard get in a scuffle. Tully takes a little bit more advantage. Out of nowhere comes Arn Anderson, who I kind of wanted Arn to be the guy on Cody's side the whole time. But it was cool that he came down the ringside, hit Spears with an Arn Anderson spine buster. Freaking awesome. Who doesn't love Arn Anderson? I mean, that was just really cool. Cody Rhodes picks up the win over Shawn Spears here. Kind of exercises that demon so he can move forward to bigger and better things. I expect him to be penciled into the main event world title picture, maybe even as early as the next pay-per-view, which we find out is going to be called Full Gear, kind of a play on the thing they had going with Adam Page a few months back. Plus it had a gear in it, which kind of cool. Full Gear Forward, I guess, whatever you would call it. Kind of a neat name, an interesting name. I really liked this match. I liked the story it told. I'm going to give the match a 5. I thought it was rather solid from beginning to end. Now, next up, we have a ladder match, and I'm not even going to attempt to call it what it was actually called. I don't speak Spanish well, and as you can see with trying to pronounce names that are not native to the English-speaking people, I'm not that good at it. We have the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks in an insane car wreck, car crash, crazy spots all over the place. A couple times I was really scared. There was one spot where Nick Jackson's feet hit the ropes and he kind of went headfirst through a table on the outside. There was another spot where Matt, I believe, fell on the support in the middle of the ladder instead of cleanly. There was a couple spots where it was a little bit shaky, where they hit and fell, and it kind of kind of cringed a little bit. Lots of craziness going on through the whole thing. I thought it was really solid. I think these two match up so well against each other. I thought it was just an insane match. Lucha Brothers pick up the win. Oh yeah, and at one point, the desperation that they show, Matt pulls off Pentagon's mask, which of course he scurries around, gets it put back on. Lucha Brothers pick up the win on it. Just a crazy, insane ladder match. The match itself, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a 5. Afterwards, we get Bill Clinton and who's the other president? It was 2 dead presidents. Bill Clinton and JFK, John Kennedy, and they're 2 masked guys attacking. I kind of knew who it was right away based on who I know are free agents in the world and who I know is available. And it was formerly LAX, Santana, and Ortiz. So that's really awesome. A big get for All Elite Wrestling. I think they're 2 guys that'll really help out. I mean, you got teams, the Lucha Brothers, the Young Bucks, Santana and Ortiz, Best Friends, Dark Order, Private Party, and Helico and Evans. I mean, that tag division is pretty stacked. And that's not even including the different combinations of SCU you could put out there, or the Boy and His Dinosaur combination. So pretty real stacked division, which is exciting going forward because I'm a fan of tag team wrestling. Like I said, I give this match a 5. Now on to the final match of the evening, the main event for the inaugural All Elite Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. Hangman Adam Page coming to the ring doing some cowboy shit, riding a horse, versus the Painmaker Chris Jericho. Just the visual of the horse is making me laugh. I thought this was a fantastic match. I really enjoyed this. I think Adam Page was elevated in this match to that main event level where they want him to be. And I think he stepped up to the plate. I think he knocked the ball out of the park. I think Chris Jericho looks as good now as he ever has in the ring. I thought this was a fantastic match between the two. They hit so many crazy moves against each other. Jericho gets busted open. He's bleeding. There was so much back and forth. Was Jericho going to win? Was Paige going to win? Finally, when it looks like Adam Page has everything under control, Jericho hits the Judas Effect elbow out of nowhere, knocks him out, which, again, it's been a protected move where no one's kicked out of it. Jericho picks up the win, becomes the first All Elite Wrestling champion. I'm going to give the match a 5. I think this choice, I 100% agree with. Chris Jericho, when you look up and down the roster, who is signed, he is by far, and this is no knock on anybody else on the roster, there are fantastic wrestlers all the way up and down the roster. Chris Jericho, by far, is the most famous person on this roster. Wrestling fans for the last 30 years have seen Chris Jericho wrestle. Whether it be Smoky Mountain Wrestling, ECW, WCW, WWE, All Elite Wrestling, Japan, Mexico. He's wrestled all over the world. He has a pedigree. Every wrestling fan knows who he is. Whether it be the fans now, the lapsed fans who stopped watching 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, people that stopped watching when WCW and ECW closed, people that stopped watching 5, 6 years ago because they didn't like what the product was, they still remember Chris Jericho. So for him to be the champion going forward, it's going to draw people into this new product. And I thought it was the right decision. I kind of went back and forth on that in my own head, what I would personally have done. I think I would have went with Paige just because it wouldn't have been what people expected. But that doesn't mean that it's the right decision either. I think it was a fantastic idea. Plus, we get to see Jericho versus Cody. Jericho versus Pentagon. Hopefully they let him do a little bit of solo stuff here. Sean Spears is a good opponent for or for Jericho going forward. Pac, Kenny Omega, MJF who stayed true and kind of made a somewhat face turn, would be another exciting opponent for Jericho. Jon Moxley, when he comes back, would be another exciting opponent for Jericho. Their feud a couple of years ago in WWE was rather good, actually. It was rather solid all the way through. So I could see them having another solid match and another solid feud. I thought this was a great match. And all in all, I think the night itself was really solid. No stinker matches on the whole night. I thought it was really good. The surprises were nice. LAX was a nice surprise. Mercedes Martinez, a great surprise. ODB was a nice surprise. I mean, all the way through Arn Anderson with the spine buster. I thought it was a really fantastic show. So overall, I'm going to give the show a 5. And I know I come off sometimes as an all-elite fanboy on these that I want them to succeed. As you can obviously, I like the product. I'm wearing their shirt. I have a flag that says the Elite behind me. I'm a fan of what these guys are doing. So, yeah, it might sound a little bit biased, but I thought the show was awesome itself as a wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan for most of my 42 years. Probably at least 35, probably more than that, years I've been a fan. I've been a fan, the earliest I can remember, actually, personal memory, is Dr. D, David Schultz, and Roddy Piper together on WWE television, or WWF at the time, which dates back to late 83, so my mom told stories of I would watch wrestling as early as 2 years old, and I would do the Jimmy Superfly Snuka Splash off of the playpen. I don't personally remember that from that time, but I do remember specifically tuning in every Saturday morning to see Schultz and Piper. I digress. I'm going off a little into the weeds here. But like I said, I thought this was a fantastic show. I hope going forward, they can keep up the momentum, keep going forward, keep surprising us, keep giving us quality matches. And that's going to be the thing. Can they keep doing this? How long can they keep producing? There's going to be lulls. There's going to be roadblocks. So far, they've had 2. Pac pulled himself out of Double or Nothing, and Moxley got injured before this show. So there have been 2 major roadblocks that they've already encountered. So what else how do they get around those roadblocks? How do they get around the inevitable time? And I don't wish this on anybody, but there's going to be inevitably a time where 2 or 3 or 4 top guys or girls are out with injury. How do they get around that? How do they get around a guy that they built to be a big star decides to leave and go to WWE? There's so many questions on what they're going to do. It's an exciting time to be a fan, in my opinion. I think we all benefit from the fact that this company is out there as wrestling fans. I love it. I love All Elite Wrestling. I like what they've done every step of the way, in my opinion. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my review of All Out.